Well, I'm Alex Garrett, and this is the Alex Garrett Podcast Network and Alex Garrett Productions. I don't usually do in-person interviews, but when I learned that Alice Chun was in the city, I said, why not connect? And so we're reconnecting here on the vlog and podcast. Thanks for joining me again today.
Well, I'm so honored that you would come and visit me in my home.
Well, let's talk about, first of all, these lights look amazing. So let's talk about what this light meant in Ukraine. Give us a little backstory for those just joining the network.
So, after the war started, I tried to talk with different nonprofits to see if they would, bring our lights to Ukraine. Many of them weren't working inside Ukraine; they were in Poland, and sadly, I donated some lights, and I never heard from them again. And all we require is to have pictures, photos of the lights being delivered. And when I heard about the children in the hospitals through a friend of mine who actually worked in one of the children's hospitals, the children were having traumatic events because of the bombings and the blackouts. So the Russians have been bombing all the power stations as a terrorist attack on people's. It's a big trauma people go through if they don't have light at night. And so the children in particular would have these traumatic events for hours, and it would take hours for the hospital staff to calm them down. And I remembered when we delivered these colored lights to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, the healthcare workers were helping the children deal with PTSD by using the different colors. And then when I heard about the children in Ukraine, I said, I have to bring these to the children.
You were just kind of giving me a lesson on what these different colors are. So if someone if the lights are delivered and the kids see this, how do these color changes affect their mood and improve them, if you will?
So there's a lot of new studies and data about color therapy and LED therapy. And so blue light is used for depression. Green light is used for headaches and migraines. Red light also helps with your anxiety. So sometimes they use the different colors to help the children sleep at night. Some of them use them as night lights because all children are really terrified of the dark. Mm-hmm. And they also use the colors for games as well, which also helps with trauma. Mm-hmm. And so basically when I went to Ukraine to deliver the lights, most of the children were in beds, and they had a lot of, in some cases they had steel going through their bodies. Sure. And some children had amputated legs, amputated arms because their home was bombed in their village. And a lot of I went to Ukraine during Christmas because I knew that was an important time, and these kids being stuck in a hospital during Christmas time and New Year's, I knew that the impact would be even greater, and that, out of all the times that I should do this for the kids during Christmas. And I was able to do that, and a lot of these kids were alone. Some of them were alone because, the mother had other kids and back in the village, and they couldn't afford to bring the whole family to Kyiv. And so, yeah.
I was going to ask about the separation, because obviously these lights probably help them through that separation anxiety, along with being physically and mentally damaged. I mean, these lights probably help them through the separation part of it too.
Absolutely. That's a really, really great point, Alex. Basically, when I give the light to the children, I tell them that, this gets its power from the sun. And it's like you're holding the sun in your hand. And the sun is the most powerful source of energy that comes to the earth every day. But the light of your mind and your heart is even more powerful than the sun. And if you keep fighting with that light, there's nothing you can't do, and you will achieve your dreams. And so that story related to the power of the sun in this light helps them to remember that they're empowered.
You told me you had started this with the Haiti earthquake. So how did you get to the idea of, let me go to these devastated areas, whether it be war-torn or through natural disasters, and you not only go, you go on your own. So tell us about what inspired you to do those endeavors.
So it started in 2010. Everyone, I actually went to Haiti and Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria in 2010. Both places, everyone told me, don't go. It's dangerous. You're going to get shot, killed, raped, kidnapped. Don't go. And there's something in me that, like when someone tells me not to do something, I'll do it anyway, because there's that little fight in me. But I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think it's because I want to prove that there's another point of view, another perspective than the one that we're seeing in the media, that we have this kind of prejudice against certain places, and we need to break through that. And so that's kind of why I go, to prove that there is another side to the story. And even in places that are war-torn and suffering, and you see devastation, you'll always see this beam of light. You will always find gems of people and stories of perseverance and hope.
All right, well, then tell us, because I know on the phone you were starting to choke up a little bit, but I got to ask you in person, get it on camera. You're also, what stories come to mind as you say that?
There's so many. I mean, one hospital wing, we walked in and there were a whole bunch of kids that had been there for 10 years because they were immune deficient.
Oh, wow.
So they were like growing up in the hospital, and they all came out and we started passing out the lights. And there was this little boy who was 2 years old, and he had a cast on his foot, so he was limping. And he took his light, and he was so excited that he started running away with this limp. And then he started running back with this limp, and he was dragging his friend with him. And he came to me and said, give my friend a light too. And in the most, I don't know, you wouldn't blame these kids for being hateful or spiteful, but I found the opposite. I found that they were incredibly loving, and out of all the people that that you wouldn't expect this from, you found incredible love and forgiveness.
I'm talking with Alice Chun of SoLight Design. She's the CEO and founder. And I'm going to ask you about the idea for the company in a little bit. But while I have you here, I got to also ask, did you choose this hospital by choice? Because in my view, you think, well, maybe the government told her where to go because of the safety risks. But you chose this hospital, didn't you?
It was serendipitous, but sometimes destiny chooses you, and if you follow your path of what you believe in and what you're passionate about, things begin to align in miraculous ways. Yes. So in a way, it was kind of miraculous that my friend's friend, who was a sister, was a nurse in a very famous children's hospital that was actually bombed a few months earlier, and Ahmedid is the children's hospital in Lviv. There's also an Ahmedid in Kyiv. So, and specializing in children and actually cancer in children. But in any case, there's so many points of different stories kind of aligning, and that happened.
Do you believe God had a role in bringing you to these different places?
Well, I believe in God, and I I kind of feel like I it's weird because all right, so I think when I was a little girl, maybe I wasn't loved enough.
Okay.
And now it's like I go to these places to give love to children all over the world.
Wow.
And it's, might
So
be.
So you feel a healing too, in other words?
I feel like God has given me a gift, which is courage.
I think so too. Going there, not only going to these war-torn sites and natural disaster areas, but by yourself. I mean, you think it's crazy. I think it's more bravery than anything, because that's just, and it shows a willingness to go. And it's something that most people in today's world don't do, which is go out and do something about it. How many times do we hear people say, well, what are we going to do about this? Well, here's Alice Chun doing something about it, and maybe your story can inspire others to get up off their butts here and do something, right?
I hope so. I really hope so. I mean, there's so many things that we can do, small things. It doesn't have to be flying across the world. It can also be like donating a light. Like our website, we have a Give a Light page where you can buy a light to give to Ukraine or Turkey. You can use our lights 1 hour, 2 hours a night instead of tapping into the grid and save on carbon emissions.
Yeah, you were telling me about that there's 60% of America without light. Is that correct?
So with climate change, there's an intensity and an incredible spike in hurricanes, fires, earthquakes, flooding, and in the United States, there's a 60% increase in power outages within the past 10 years. And it keeps going because we have a certain amount of grid. We have an increasing population. The grid was designed for a population from 20, 30 years ago. So we're having a lot of power outages.
Was 2003, I don't know if you were in the city in 2003 when the blackout happened. Was that a warning shot then to us, or what?
You know what, there was that, and there was also Sandy.
Yes, yeah.
Which was, I don't know, 12?
12, yeah,
2012. And 2 weeks, we had to boil water to bathe our baby son.
Yeah.
We had to go to the gym. Like, there was a gym like on the other side that had electricity to shower.
Well, I remember this part of the city was actually, so the power plant's right up here on 14th Street, and this part was lit up, but then you go down to 14th and everything was dark after that. It was really quite a phenomenon, actually.
Yeah, it was amazing that it lasted for so long, because no one expected it to last for a month. In some cases they had light right away, but then for the whole city to get back, it took almost a month.
As I mentioned on the show last time, I want to get into your professional career at Columbia, because I think it's pretty interesting that you left academia to basically pursue your passion of doing these lights and the solar energy world as well. So what was the moment you decided, okay, well, I'm going to leave academia and pursue what I want to and make a difference that way?
So, well, basically, after I went to Haiti, and this is a true story. I called the Clinton Foundation maybe 20 times trying to get their attention to come to my review at Columbia, which focused on Haiti.
Okay. And
finally someone answered my call, and they showed up to Columbia to see the different research and proposals for solutions that we came up with. And after that, I was invited to Haiti for a Green Tech Expo. Okay. And in walks President Clinton and the president of Haiti. And back then, I had a glued up, duct taped prototype in 2010 of the solar puff. And then I showed it to the president and President Clinton, and he loved it. He thought it was fantastic, and he's like, come over here, come look at this. I like your light. And fast forward 7 years, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, along with our nonprofit partners, we were able to get over 100,000 lights to people in Puerto Rico. And that was an incredible joint effort between like 4 or 5 different nonprofits, the Clinton Foundation, Hispanic Federation, and us. Like we actually went down. I went down personally and delivered lights as well. And now I think like 20 different countries. We helped in the Nepal earthquake, Mozambique after the cyclone, and even here in the United States, the American Indian Navajo tribe in Utah, 60% of a 300,000 population, 60% do not have running water or electricity on the indigenous reservation.
It's unbelievable to me that there are sectors of the U.S. that don't have water, heat, even internet. I mean, that's another big thing. So it sounds like you want to expand beyond just the solar and really delve into this infrastructure that many sectors of the United States are missing right now.
Absolutely. So I like to call this individualized infrastructure.
Okay.
Because in order to put in a solar array for a city, that would take billions of dollars. It would take at least 10 years for that to be built. But people need light right now. People need power right now. And so all of our products are for regular people. And you don't have to spend $10,000 on a solar array to use solar in your home, but you can use it in small ways.
Let me ask you this then, because you mentioned that the Ukrainian children were needing the light, but how bad was it there light-wise? I mean, did the Russia knock out power everywhere? What exactly is the situation on the ground there?
They are still bombing power stations, but the Ukrainians are incredible people. They're so resilient. They're so smart, and I love their sense of humor, because even in the midst of being at war, they still have a great sense of humor, which I find like
that's great,
incredible. But so in places like Lviv, they were having blackouts 8 hours a day, every day. In Kyiv, the same. So in these major cities where the infrastructure, and the support is much greater, they would have, brownouts and blackouts, but they would have electricity for a few hours a day. But in the villages that are on the east, close to Russia, those villages are completely decimated, and those families have nothing. And basically,
did you go to that part?
I did not go to the front line. Okay. I almost went one day. I was going to go, but there was a lot of bombing. Actually, my friend, who is the cameraman, went to Kherson, and they were supposed to stay 2 weeks. They stayed 4 hours because the bombings were so frequent and so much that they just turned around and came back. But while they were there those 4 hours, they saw a train, and all of these children were being put on the train to ship them out of Kherson.
I was going to say, as I mentioned on the call we had, this impacts the adults too, right? Seeing their reactions to the kids' reactions. Tell us about how this affects the adults as well.
So there was a doctor that I was speaking with at one of the hospitals, and he was saying that this is a kind of torture that the Russians are trying to put on the Ukrainians by leaving them in the dark to keep them powerless. Because psychologically, he felt like he did not want to be home anymore because it was so dark. He works at a hospital, so they have generators there all the time, and if anything should happen. So, and he said that it's a real psychological shift that happens when you don't have light at night anymore.
Right.
And so all the nurses we gave lights to, we gave phone chargers to them, and they all wanted more because they were,
And they must have been working tireless hours as well.
Well, the good thing I think that's happening is that everyone's just working on different shifts and, being organized and coordinated so that not one person is working like a 36-hour shift, and they're scheduling.
Obviously, these are solar powered, so they're not battery powered. But you were going to tell us more about the phone charger as well.
So this one is called the Quinn, and it opens up into a big origami cube, and it has 2 big solar panels. So I researched. I got every single phone charger that was solar, and the other ones, the solar panel is too small. It would take 2 weeks to charge that battery to use your phone.
Wow.
And if you're really stuck without any power, that's not gonna be.
This is a prototype,
and
right?
So
this is not
no,
launched.
this is launched, and you can buy this on our website. And this one also has phone charging, and you could rapid charge it with an outlet if you want. But if you're stuck and you need to have power to charge your phone, this will work. I actually brought this with me to Haiti, and I was there for in the middle of nowhere, and they had other solar chargers that were very cheap, like Chinese, little, and it was actually draining the battery from their phones. And then they use this one, and then it charged the phone twice as fast.
So you don't necessarily, I'm not trying to be funny, but you don't put it on the panel, you actually just put the USB cord, and then that's how it charges it.
Yeah. So
Very
it goes in here, and then you hook it up to your phone.
And how many people have gotten that? I mean, I feel like people don't know that phone chargers could be solarized, right? I mean, they
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Ours in particular, they're lamps, and they're also a power bank. So this one we already have on the market, and it's, you can get one off of our website. This one's called the Quinn. I named it after my son. My son's name is Quinn. And then we're gonna launch a new
Does he ever
product.
get worried when you go over into these countries, or what?
He does, actually. I don't know. Because everyone, I told people that I was going to Haiti, and they said, don't go, and you might not come back. And I actually checked my life insurance before I left, and I told my son, children get kidnapped, young girls, women get assaulted in tent camps, especially right after a disaster occurs. So it's really important that they have light, because light means safety and surveillance. If someone's going to attack you, you can actually see their face and point a finger. If it's completely pitch black, you have no idea who's attacking you. So it's really important for me to go to help these kids and the people that need light. And he said, "Mom, I think you're going to come back." So he wasn't really, it didn't seem like he was concerned. He just said, "You're gonna come back." And of course I did, but I always tell him, I love you so much, and I'm doing this because I invented this because I want to help your kids and your grandchildren's kids somehow make an impact on their lives. And I love you more than anything, and every time I go, and he's like, "Stop it, Mom."
Well, now you're off to your next. By the way, how old is he now? Is he?
He's 18.
He's 18, so he can grasp it. I guess in 2010, then he was about 5 or so at the time. In 2010,
He, yeah, he was 6 years old.
So that's a lot for a 6-year-old to ingest, but hey, you had that optimism that you'd be back, and you were back. So
Actually, he was too little back then, but I was talking about this most recent earthquake, which was last year.
Yes, that one.
So he was like 16 or 17. He was 17, and so he could kind of.
Well, your next endeavor now is to Turkey, and I'm glad I caught you now because I know that in about a couple weeks from now you're not going to be in this home. You're going to be out again in the elements, if you will. That earthquake just seemed very unusual because Turkey never gets that, right? So tell us about the uniqueness of this and how you're going to approach it. Do you approach these different catastrophes differently, I guess is my other question.
Well, apparently Turkey has kind of been, apparently the whole country and Syria, they're on a tectonic plate that is kind of been compromised for the past 10 years, and I think it was something that we had no idea would happen in such a magnitude, 7.8 or 7.9 magnitude earthquake.
Back-to-back days, I think. Or something.
I think nothing like that has happened there for like 70 years. Mm-hmm. So, and the magnitude of the destruction was so horrific that I wanted to go earlier, but after something like that happens, they're basically trying to get bodies out, and it's chaos. And so I waited, and now I feel more confident about what's happening over there in terms of organization and knowing where the the IDPs, internally displaced people, are in country, and most of them are being put in tent camps.
Let me ask about the funding for these trips. How do you get to go? I mean, there's obviously a lot of money that's involved. So tell us about the funding that you're able to get to go.
So for Ukraine, I was really fortunate that Bob Iger had donated lights for Ukraine, and I was on Hillary Clinton's Gutsy, a docuseries on Apple TV, and his team saw that, and they also noted that I have been talking up his book because I really love his book, Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, and that's his journey as a from nothing. And
now he's back, by the way.
I know, yeah. I actually talked to him in the 2 weeks that he was not, when he left and before he went back, and he is such a great guy, so kind and so smart. And anyway, so he and his wife donated lights for Ukraine.
Wow.
And then for Turkey, I'm hoping, if we get another donation, that would be amazing. But whether or not we do, I'm gonna go anyway. And
let's talk about
it's the right thing to do.
Let me talk about the relationship with the Clintons. Are you still in touch with them? Because obviously you were on with Hillary Clinton. So how close is that connection?
So we were actually, Hillary and I were together on the Tamron Hall show just a couple of weeks ago. And when I was in Ukraine, I was texting Hillary the whole time I was there.
Is she going to run 24? I'm just kidding.
I don't think so, but who knows? I mean, I don't know why. Well, you know why, that whole debacle with that election, but...
Well, anyway, so you and her are close, and does that, when you say I texted Hillary Clinton, does that make you feel a certain way, like, oh my God, I've sort of made it?
Totally.
Or what?
No, I don't feel like I've made it, because we're still a small company just trying to do the right thing.
Right.
And I guess that's like the other thing that I'd like to show is that even though you're small, even though you might not have a ton of money, that there's always ways to help. And I don't feel like I've made it at all. I just feel like I'm a regular person just trying to do what's right, and I'm lucky that I have the wherewithal to to get things done, like invent things and, figure out how to get from one place to another on my own. But I always say, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I'm just, I'm a poor Korean girl from, a war-torn Korea, immigrated over when I was 4.
You definitely don't have the oh my god, I was on GMA kind of feeling. Like, I talk to you like a regular person. I feel like you don't have that starstruck feeling. You're just.
Oh, not at all. I'm just grateful that, I had that opportunity to share the story. And the crew and that's not me, that was the crew of ABC, a crew of 7 people, Dragana, Kuba, Britt, a whole slew of people that were in Kyiv that followed me around for a week, that worked night and day, editing at night, filming, and writing the narrative and editing, and it was an incredible amount of work, but they were invested just as much as I was, which was so amazing to see.
You mentioned it was 2 minutes, but I'm sure that all the footage they have, you've still kept it. / are people able to view what footage they got for you on a YouTube page, or did you make video and content over there? Or?
I did video on my own when I was in the hospitals with the children, but they followed me around with a heavy duty camera and cameraman, and all of that footage belongs to ABC.
Well, I would love that they would release it. That'd be great, just to see what else they captured, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they would. But I just have to say that I have so much respect for that crew that I met there because of.
And they're still over there.
Their talent, and they actually switch around because for psychological reasons of being in a war zone, that so they'll be there for a month and then go to a different location or have a break and then come back.
All right, my guest is Alice Chun, and Alice, SoLight Design. I don't think we got to this yet, but the camera crews were with you at ABC, and I know you want to rattle off their names and give them big thanks for their coverage at GMA. But do you know if they kept that footage, and if we'll be able to see what ABC captured? After all, they only took 2 minutes and then put it on the air. So there's got to be a lot of unused footage that maybe people would want to see, and of your adventures in Ukraine.
That would be amazing if they shared that, but all of that footage belongs to ABC, and they don't belong to me. So I'm not sure what they're doing with that footage, but I guess I could ask.
And then, real quick, tell us about, I think we got to the Bob Iger stuff because that's in there. But real quick, tell us about the funding that you got. You mentioned Bob Iger to me off air. Just tell me a little bit about that.
So Bob Iger's team saw me on Gutsy, a docuseries on Apple TV with Hillary Clinton and Chelsea Clinton. And they also saw that I've been talking up his book, Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, which that book I really love and refer to in terms of a journey from nothing to. And he actually contacted me, and I had a Zoom call with him, and he actually donated lights for Ukraine.
And then that's the funding for that. Now, how are you getting to Turkey? Because I know.
So I am gonna go to Turkey no matter what. And if we get more funding for that, that would be amazing. That would be phenomenal. But whether we do or not, I'm gonna go anyway. So.
You shared the reason why you created SoLight Design. Tell us that on camera as well.
So I created SoLight because I knew the impact that this was going to have. Knowing that there's 2.6 billion people in the world without access to electricity. They're using kerosene to light their world at night. And in disaster zones, we're getting an increase of disasters every year. And when a disaster strikes and when there's war, children and young women are the most vulnerable. children get kidnapped. There's human trafficking. After a disaster, if a child has lost their parents, we don't know who this child belongs to, they go missing. And so it's very important to have light, because that's safety and surveillance, so that it prevents people from getting, because when you have complete darkness, you can't point the finger at anyone.
Well, it is important to have light, and so like I can see, as you're talking about, that's why you created SoLight Design. You also want to bring solar awareness. Touch on that for a couple minutes.
So just using a solar light for a few hours a night instead of tapping into the grid, you could save 20% of your electric bill by not using a regular light bulb. You can also take this camping or use for a party, maybe even, like I had this one couple use them as gifts for their guests at their wedding. And so small things matter. Everything, like, we're all drops in the ocean, but together we can move the moon.
Love that. So even when it's cloudy out, right? You say that there's
yeah, so these will charge even when it's cloudy, because it'll just take longer, but they'll eventually charge.
One thing I want to get to before we wrap up here, you have a lot of arms on the ground in these different places. If you're in Turkey but you have a disaster in another area, you are able to strike up partnerships, and they're helping bring your lights on the ground, aren't they?
So, like I said, so collectively, if we all work together, there is incredible magnitude of change that can happen, because the demise of the planet happened because each person did something small. And we can heal the planet if we just do something small, all of us. And so either using a solar light instead of the light bulb, or using a solar charger instead of charging your phone to the outlet, or donating a light to Turkey or Ukraine. You can just go to our website at SoLight-Design, and we have a Give a Light page where you can just buy a light to give to one of these missions.
Love it. Well, Alice Chun, thanks so much for joining. SoLight Design founder and CEO, and she's doing this on her own, going to the war zone, going to natural disasters, and then come back home to New York City. And I feel like this is such a New York story that it's got to be, you've got to be highlighted more. That's why I wanted you on my show. So thanks so much.
I'm so grateful, Alex. You're amazing. Thank you for all of your help. And
my pleasure.
It's because of stories like this that we get to share and make another impact.
And then we'll get you when you're on the ground in Turkey. I'd love to hear from you over there.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, hopefully until Quinn will say, you know what, you're going to come home, right?
Right,
so
exactly.
That's the hope. Well, thanks so much,
Thank you, Alex.
I'm Alex Garrett. Alice Chun, SoLight Design. Check her out. Check out the website. And yes, she is an example of New York City doing things. And so I say, we're just getting this pandemic. Let's get up and do things as well. And she's a great example. So thanks for joining me on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.